In this video, we're going to take a look at the Accounts Receivable module. So I'm going to hit my Applications dropdown, go to Accounts Receivable, and on the All tab, I can see, your customers are going to live within this module. Your invoices will all get pushed through to here, but if you're doing project contracts, then you're going to be doing your invoicing through either the projects module or the order entry module. Once they're created in those modules, they do push through to AR, but you're likely going to be printing them out of projects or order entry also. So really, as far as invoices are concerned, the only thing you're going to be doing through this module is receiving the payments. So receive a payment is an old method of receiving payments. Receive payments new is the new way to do it. This is the button that you would click if you have to receive payments through the system. And recurring invoices, you're going to be doing yours most likely through projects or order entry, but if you do have a need to set up recurring invoices and do it through AR, that is an option. Adjustments do not flow back to the projects module. So if you have adjustments to do, we recommend doing it in projects. Advances, customer advances, if that's something that you have the need for, it's done here. And then, your deposits, manual deposits, penalties, and post payments when they go through will show here. So if you're using undeposited funds, you're receiving the payment into undeposited funds, and then the second step is depositing all of those checks to the bank in one go. Retainage is available through Accounts Receivable, but if you are doing retainage and you want to send out that on an AIA type template, you're going to be doing that through the projects module also. You can close your subledger or specific payment summaries. And then, as always, we have a report section here in your module. These are your out-of-the-box accounts, customer aging, your registers. And then there's custom reports, and you can add to the custom reports here so that they appear on your menu and it's a quick link to them. On the Setup tab, then we have your types and terms, which we'll go through in another video in this section. And then we also have your tax setup. So there's an entire section that we do on taxes. It's quite a bit of setup that has to be done for taxes, and it will more than likely require you to do a one-on-one session with us. So if you have the need for taxes, you can reach out about getting access to that set of videos. So for now, we're going to take a look at the configuration on this Accounts Receivable module. It's quite similar to AP. Your journals are going to default in here as ARJ, ARJ, CRJ. That should be fine. You shouldn't need to touch these. And then your GL accounts. So the default out of the box Accounts Receivable account is the 12,000 account, which is what I have. If you're using that, great, then yours will be the same. If you have a different Accounts Receivable account that you want to make sure is being hit, then you will want to change these to that specific account. Discounts and penalties, then, if you have certain terms set up for discounts and penalties, you're going to want to make sure that you have a GL account put in here so that it defaults to that correct account. Same thing with overpayment. If there's overpayments being made and you want a specific account for that to pop out on your GL, you would pop that in here. And if you have the need for customer advances and you have specific accounts to make that specific account to make that pop out on GL, you want to put that in here also. In your retainage section, then you want to enable AR retainage. You should have a retainage receivable account in here. And then you will need to have a retainage release clearing account set up. Because of the way that Intacct handles retainage, you will need a release clearing account. It's probably not something that you're used to, but it is necessary for the retainage process in Intacct. So if you have no account in there for that or set up, you can hit the drop down and you can add, and then you could copy basically what's here. So it's just give it a quick start category of Accounts Receivable, and then your account type, normal balance, and period end closing type are going to default in. And then for your retainage release invoice template, you're not going to put anything in here because you're going to be doing that out of your projects module. Summary frequency, you should have 1 per for everything here. You want it to be the most granular level, so it should be 1 per. I believe advances comes out of the box as you specified, so you're going to want to change that to 1 per. Open item or balance forward then on statements that you're sending out of the system. Do you want them to be open item, show all open invoices, or balance forward. 99% of people are going to do open item for this. In your threshold section then, if posting transactions to a future period, show warning. If credit limit is exceeded, show warning. And if customer is on hold, do not allow transactions to be created. So these are best practice recommendations: show warning, and do not allow. So if I go over here to my other tab and I click into my customers, I can see on my customer additional information tab, there's an on hold option. So I can place a customer on hold. And because I have this checked as do not allow transactions to be created, once the customer is checked off as on hold here, then no one can put transactions in the system for that customer. Enable functionality, then there are some parts of this that we'll gloss over, and as per usual, you can click help and support help on this page, and it goes through every single field on this configuration page. So if there's something that we don't mention that you want to take a look at, you can absolutely click into help and support and get more information on that. You may want to enable custom discounts so that you can change, let's say if it's off by a penny for a discount, the way it calculated, you can enable custom discounts and you can override that in Accounts Receivable. Enable reclassification for invoices and adjustments should be on. So if an invoice has been paid, you can go in and reclassify it and update, say, the department or something like that. You definitely want that on because people will make mistakes. Enable reversal of unpaid invoices. We recommend not checking this off unless you absolutely need to put that control in place. So if this is left the way it is, any unpaid invoices can easily just be deleted out of the system and they have no effect on GL. If it's checked off like that, then it means that once an invoice has been entered into the system, it cannot be deleted, it would have to be reversed. So our recommendation is to not check off enable reversal of unpaid invoices. Payment dates must be greater than their invoice dates. Makes sense, but we do have clients that don't want to turn that on. Let's say they're receiving rent, receiving money for rent before they even bill it out, then they might not want to have that on, which is totally fine. So there may be scenarios where you would turn that off. Disable editing after posted transactions are printed or emailed. Makes sense. Again, you may want to turn that off, and then flag as printed when any print or email option is selected. Yes, we like to see that on. Enable inter-entity bill back. Then if you have the need to automatically create an AP bill once an AR invoice goes in the system for, your inter-entity billing, then you would turn this on. And then I would also recommend going to askrichard.io and then clicking into Ask Richard and just type in something simple like inter-entity bill back. And you should get a video option here to watch. Yeah, so managing multiple entities in Intacct. Bill back feature. So here we go. That's what you would want to watch in that scenario. So inter-entity bill back, you would turn it on there, and then I recommend going into Ask Richard and finding a video on setting that up correctly. Dunning notices then. If you're using this already, or you'd be familiar with this already if it's something that you need, but it's basically to send out a notice to a company before you get credit agencies involved. It's mainly for like service contractors, people who are using SFO, things like that. Enable edit of reversal dates, you would more than likely want to turn that on. And then enable single payments for multiple customers. It's no harm to turn that on. You may not ever need that, but no harm to have that checked off. In your contact settings, then we're going to want to show all contacts. At this point, we don't want to restrict our contacts at all. You may have the need for that later on if you're doing a specific tax setup or something like that. But for right now, we'll definitely do show all contacts. And then you can default the sender information source for invoices or statements coming out of AR. So you can say, just use the email address and name that's associated with the user who is logged in, or you can say custom profile, and you can put in a specific email address, name, and phone number that regardless of who's logged in, it's going to come from. So you could have like an AR email address or something like that and pop that in here. So that's an option. And then here on your screen settings for your GL posting date. So transaction date and GL posting date, you want to keep them the same as much as possible. So some reports will run based off GL posting date, some reports will run based off of transaction date. So we really recommend keeping those dates the same, but there are going to be scenarios where you may possibly have to have them different. So if you can at all, we would say no here. But if you have, sometimes the scenario where you would need those to be different, we definitely recommend saying that you're going to autofill your GL posting date with the transaction date, because you do want to keep them the same as much as possible. If they are different, you just need to remember that, because your reports may pull one or the other. So I like no here, but if you have to say yes, do yes, yes. And then display each invoice or adjustment memo line as single line will pop up. On your dimension setup, then you want to have everything checked off here. It doesn't mean that you have to code to all of these dimensions. It just gives you the option to code to them, which you absolutely do want. You can then put further restrictions in place to make sure that you're always coding to certain dimensions, but just to be able to see them and have the option to code to them, you want to make sure everything is checked off here. In your document sequencing section, then, this is just a numbering sequence that's internal for all of these records. So you should have all of these defaulted in your invoices, AR adjustments, customers, and payments is going to be blank. So we're going to hit the little drop down here, and we're going to do add, and we're going to just add one in. So I'm going to call it AR pay, give it a numeric sequence length of 6, and my primary sequence maximum is just going to default in there. We're going to leave that alone, and then I'm going to do AR pay down here again, and I'm going to hit 1 in my primary sequence. So this is going to be AR pay -000001 for my internal numbering sequence for my AR payment. So I'm going to pop that in there and save it. And you should have copied that. And then if invoices or adjustments are assigned duplicate numbers, we do not allow transactions to be created because it's likely an error. So do not allow here on this. And then require numbers on invoices, adjustments, and recurring invoices and manual deposits. We would check off both of those, but totally up to you. Best practice is to check them both off. This customer reconciliation report is very similar to the vendor reconciliation report. It just gives a matching sequence for transactions that are linked. So say we have an invoice that was created, an adjustment against it, and then a payment that was against it. It's just going to give the same sequence for those 3 transactions to show you that they are related. Haven't really seen a lot of people that are super impressed with or love this report, but if you wanted to turn it on, you can check it off, and then on your AR match sequence, you're going to drop it down and hit add. If you wanted to add in a sequence here, you're just going to do alpha, and then it has to be AA or something like that. But like I said, not a great report. People are not loving it, so we generally don't turn it on. Your aging buckets should be already in. You shouldn't need to do anything with this. And then in your formatting section, I mentioned already that you're going to be sending your invoices out of order entry or projects. You're not really going to do it out of AR. But there are several options out of the box here for invoices and, statements that you can choose. And even if you don't default anything in here, it's going to just choose one for you. So if you do decide to send something out of AR, it's not going to be blank. It's just going to default in something for you. But you can change it here if you wish, but we are not going to go into that because we're mostly sending stuff out of projects or order entry. Down here then in your payment section for your defaults, we're going to say what default we want when we're receiving payments. So I am going to put in my default payment method of check, which makes the most sense for my company, but obviously you're going to put in whatever makes the most sense for you so that you don't have to keep changing it every time when you go in to receive payments. And then if you're doing bank account, you're going to say bank here. If you have an undeposited funds account that you're having that sit in, then you're going to go undeposited funds and then specify which undeposited account that you want that to hit, which GL account you want that to hit. And then this can also be done at entity level. So if you have different accounts that you're going to go to for, or different payment methods by entity, that can be changed at entity level as well. So down here on my credit section, then enable inline credits to be automatically applied to invoices. We do not like to see that on. If it makes sense for you to have that on, then definitely do check it off. But we have seen that cause some issues before, so we like to see that left off. So if you made any changes there, then you can save. Otherwise, you can cancel out of it. But I do believe that you would have to have made changes. So that is your accounts receivable module. Like I said, that we're going to go through types and terms next in this section. And then if you have some tax set up, that is a whole separate section. You can reach out to us on that if you want. And more than likely, you're going to be doing your invoicing out of projects or order entry. But you will definitely be receiving payments through the accounts receivable module. Thank you.